To begin this course, we are going to see how to integrate external users through OpenID Connect in Modyo. For this, we're using a local build, which is why we can see it's unsigned and the browser says not secure, and we have our OpenID Connect provider right here. In this case, we're using Keycloak, but you can use whichever compatible OpenID Connect provider that you'd like. In Keycloak, we can see a user database here and a client to integrate with Modyo. And to integrate users through OpenID Connect in Modyo, we need to go into some specific settings, then integration, go to OpenID Connect, and enable the integration. We establish our provider name here, a client ID that corresponds with the client in Keycloak, and an issuer URL. To get the issuer URL, we need to go to the realm settings and then to endpoints. We can then copy the issuer URL here. And we run the discovery service in our configuration. This allows us to automatically complete and fill a large portion of our configurations for OpenID Connect. So in this case, we have a client that is confidential that has credentials. So for this, we have to get the secret for this client. We can get it here. We can only get the credentials here in the credentials tab within the client itself. So we paste our secret and then revise the rest of our configurations. A huge part of our configuration corresponds to our URLs of the provider. There are no big changes to make in this section really, but we need to adjust our scopes here and eliminate the ones that we are not interested in. In this case, we want OpenID, email, and profile. Below, we can see some available options for our integration of OpenID Connect with Modyo. One of these is to enable refresh token, to enable Modyo to manage the token refreshes generated by the OpenID Connect provider. Also, we have the option to enable remote logout that allows us to close the session simultaneously in both the provider at the moment the session is closed within Modyo itself. This is useful for ensuring a method of disabling the mechanics of single sign-on, for example. Also, we have the option to enable token revocation. This allows us to eliminate any token generated by the provider that we are using at the moment that we close our session. And then lastly, we have the option to synchronize claims at the moment that we begin a session. So for this, Modyo, we have this claim mapping modal. You call them modal here. That is to say, we have map attributes of the OpenID Connect provider that map to custom fields within the platform. So we're going to map a claim that we've previously made called segment to a custom field we previously made as well that's called the same thing, also segment. And we're going to disable the token revocation here because Keycloak actually doesn't have this option. So now let's save our configuration and we can test our OpenID Connect integration to see if it works. For this, we're going to open an incognito browser window. This is one of the sites that we have, and here we have we've made it previously, and let's try to go ahead and start a session. At the moment we start a session, we can see we have a button that allows us to connect using Keycloak. When we click it, Modyo redirects us automatically to the provider where we can begin our session with the credentials of one of our users. In this case, we're going to log in with Joe Blogs. At the beginning of our session in the provider, we are redirected immediately back to Modyo, and we have a session that gets started for our user. So if we review our admin within customers, let's just go here. There we go. We can see that we've created a new user. And we can see some different activities, such as the membership being created, the user created, as well as some social connections, some other notifications that let us know the user is ready. And so now we have a custom field as well with information that corresponds to the user's information in KeyCloak. Okay, and we can see that in KeyCloak, this user has the attribute. Let's go ahead and open it. There we go, segment premium. And as well, Modyo also has an API that allows us to obtain the tokens that are generated by the provider. So this API, it's very simple. It can be accessed through a get in, let's say, auth/OpenIDC. And then we're going to just put in access token here. In this case, we can get the access token for this user that we could use after an integration that maybe protects some sort of resource, for example, a gateway. And we'll learn more about this in a later module.